Hello, and thank you so much for being a person that attended this Eventbrite. We want to thank you very, very much for being here and for getting a free ticket to the VIP Eventbrite. I'm talking today about how stock options and small caps are possibly able to make actual revenue for you, whether you have a business or you're an individual. Having revenue that can generate and come up is incredibly helpful. I want to share that when you're looking at different costs for things, finding a way to generate more money is something that can be very, very helpful. And with stock options and small caps, in fact, it's so easy to share this because it's exciting. Last week with small caps, I saw some over 100% in one day. So, just to take that as an example, if someone bought $25,000 worth of small cap stocks, there's a chance that within one day it was over 50,000. Now, another example of ones that do 10 and 20 and even 15%, if let's say you said you put 25,000 into a small cap stock and it generated 10%, that's $2,500. And what's exciting about that is that's real revenue that you can generate for yourself and for whatever you're involved in. And maybe it's a time where you're shifting. I know many people I meet want to find a way that either brings revenue or doesn't. So, for an example, small cap stocks are very great to find ones that have different success levels. I was looking at a company not too long ago that I had heard about. It was doing very well. It was one of the gainers, and it was called Rocket Labs. And it was a company that was involved in making very cool and complex rockets. And over the course of a week or 2 weeks, there were many days it was up quite a lot. So if you decided, like I did, to learn about it when it was going up, and then you started to understand why it is attracting investors, it's something that can be very helpful. And by doing that, what I did, I'll just tell you some easy ideas. First, I had learned it was one of the rising stocks at the top. Second, I learned about its market cap. Now, what the market cap means is how much the size of a company is. So, when you look at the giant companies like Apple or Google or Microsoft or Amazon, some of them are over $1 trillion. So when those stocks go up, they're rising from 1 trillion to 2 trillion or 2 trillion to 4 trillion. It can happen. It just takes more effort. Now, some of the small caps can be 25 million, 250 million, 2.5 billion, 5 billion, even at 10 billion. If you look at 10 billion compared to 1 trillion, that is such a far way away that sometimes those small caps can go up a lot. So you want to look at what that market cap is. Um, Another thing to look at is what business they're involved in. So I went to the Rocket Lab website. I read about it. I watched a couple of videos where they talked about some of their rockets. I looked at news reports where I can see what different investment professionals, people that are doing different reports, what they report on it. I look at the earnings. So when you're doing all this, you're taking time to understand small cap stock. And one of the things about that too is Warren Buffett worked with Benjamin Graham, and they talked about one last puff. So you might find a stock which I've seen before that was like $35 or $50, and now it's only $2 or $4. And sometimes it'll get renewed interest, and it can go from, let's say it was at $35 and then it's at two. It can go from 2 to 250 to three, even sometimes 4 or 5 or $8. And when you get involved with that, looking at examples, right? Let's say you took $100,000 and it went up 15%, that's $15,000 in real revenue. One of the things I like about trading is you're taking that money and it's only about you deciding when to sell. So if you bought, let's say 100,000 and you made 15,000, you can take the 115,000, sell, and now it's your money. That's money you can do to travel. That's money you can put away in savings. That's money you can pay bills. That's money you can invest in other things if you collect stuff or buy art or have gold coins. Maybe you buy bullion, whatever it is. That's your own money. Maybe you want to start setting money aside and say that it's possible to enjoy having some profit. So that's one of the things I share about is with stock options. I actually saw in the last few days some that were 4, 5, and 6%. I'll tell you something interesting too. Sometimes people don't like that the stocks can change. Meaning, if you looked at all the stocks that were up today, the next day it doesn't have to always be the same ones exactly going up. But one of the things I teach about with my tutoring is you can buy the indexes. So let's say you believe the Nasdaq is going to go up for the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. You can buy options on the Nasdaq. I was looking at the Nasdaq and saw over the last um, year, it went up a pretty great amount for a whole giant index, especially one that has giant things like Amazon and Apple and Microsoft over $1 trillion. If you look on the NASDAQ of how much it went up over last year, it's quite a lot. So let's say you were to have said to yourself you wanted to learn and you just bought the NASDAQ. You might have made like $1 million become over 300,000 in profit. Even this year, I think it's up over 15%, close to 20%. So that means if you bought the actual Nasdaq, let's say you put in 100,000, you make 20,000. Now with options, you can do even more, and that's one of the things it's exciting to have in your tool of wheelhouse of knowledge. That's the thing too. If you said you had 500,000 and what I could teach you could make you 50,000 or 100,000 or 500,000, and not just this year, over the lifetime of your trading, of your investing, and have really someone that gave you extra special knowledge and real reality too. Because one of the things I think people don't talk about is they'll tell you about a stock option that went up 5 times or 10 times. Like, for example, I spotted two that did really well, and they typically do. One was Zoom. Zoom had their earnings and did very well and went up after earnings, and so did Target as well. But what I would share is they won't tell you that you can really profit, but it's not easy. And you're getting the sort of defensive ability to stay strong and say, how am I planning my trading? How am I getting more aggressive? How am I backing off? In fact, they talked about the Fed made an announcement at Jackson Hole, a big event, and said they're likely to lower rates in September. So I just want to share that's why learning can really be helpful. You can be deciding for September, but I just want to give you part of what I do with my psychology and the trading teaching and the tutoring. So you had this past Friday, they're talking about lowering rates into September. Markets were up. So that's on Friday. So many people maybe on Friday felt more optimistic. But I sort of watch tailwinds and say you have to be really aware. So while that happened on Friday, this Saturday and Sunday, they started to have on the news. I looked last night, Saturday evening, quite late, where it's Sunday morning there. In Israel and Iran, there's giant war type things that are happening. There were massive amounts of bombs. So the idea of Friday being a great day, there's risk into Monday. And that's one of the things I share is understanding the psychology of that. So on Friday, if you were typically thinking you thought that it was doing quite well, and then over the weekend there's war type stuff that happens. Israel and Iran are quite important to markets. So on Friday, the boom is there. And then on the weekend, there's this war type stuff. So it makes going into Monday not as easy, not as simple. And I want to talk to you about how you can decide if you want to do this or if it's even just knowledge that you have. Because one of the things someone could do, you could literally trade 1 or 2 or 3 days a year. So there could be times that you feel it's really, I almost look to sometimes around the holidays, things get really optimistic, or maybe it's a certain time of year and you see things going well. I'll tell you, that happened to me this year. I saw an opportunity and felt really good about it and made 19 times my money. So let me say that again. It was a time that I felt was going right, and I put more of my money in that day and I made 19 times. And I'm trading much less. Some weeks I'm trading not at all, some I'm doing here and there. But I found the right market opportunity and turned it into a 19 times profit. So when I share this with you, and understanding even how Friday was a great day and people were optimistic, it's going well, and then over the weekend there's war stuff that changes and makes the decision of how Monday's going so much more complex. But by working with a tutor, you can understand all that because sometimes people just buy, they get excited, and they don't understand the risk. And what I just want to say one last time is it's about real profit. So you either in the stock trading, you either make profits or you make losses. There's no in between. So what I'm helping you doing, giving you access, you're going to have one of my team members email you. I was charging $9,999. So for $10,000, I was doing a 100-point system where I teach you really the tricks and the best amount of things I've learned in 25 years trading. But now I've offered to help people by doing a tutoring service for much less than the $10,000. So I want to ask you, when my team reaches out to you, to think about how some sessions with me tutoring you, I tutor on Skype, it could help you. And if you said to yourself, hey, if at some point in my life I'm going to have $1 million, maybe envision having a million, how it would help you if my tutoring could show you how at times that million could be 1.1 million or 1.3 million or 1.5 or even 2 million or 5 million. So think about how valuable that trading is. I'm going to head off now, and I want to thank you so much for attending this event, Brett. Again, you'll see for my team member a VIP access, because by getting this ticket, you get VIP access to lower cost tutoring directly with me. That's one of the things, too. At some schools, there's tons of people. You get the real founder and the real expert. And I wish you guys wonderfully well. Hope to hear from you soon.